This video contains spoilers for The Devil Wears Prada.
Hi everyone. Quick note before we get started. Due to copyright issues, I've had to re-edit this video a number of times, and as a result, I can only use screenshots. I can't play any clips from the movie, so you will hear audio from the movie, but there will be a still image on top of it. Thank you so much for your patience, and enjoy the video.
When people talk about The Devil Wears Prada, the conversation usually falls into one of two camps. Either, ugh, the friends in Nate are the worst. Runway just prepared Andy for the real world. Or the opposite. Runway is abusive. Thank God Andy had her friends in Nate to keep her grounded. I hear both interpretations, but especially the first one, in particular from women in my age group. But I think both readings miss something important about the film, because both treat Andy's life like a balance scale. If one side is bad enough, the other must be justified. And the insensitivity of her friends and the jealousy of her boyfriend get used to defend Miranda and the culture she creates. Runway's cruelty get used to excuse the behavior of Andy's friends. But what if we shouldn't be pitting these groups against each other at all? In my view of The Devil Wears Prada, I want to be clear from the start. This is not a who's worse argument, nor am I justifying the behaviors of either side. My argument is that everyone in Andy's orbit fails her. Not equally, and not for the same reasons, but consistently. Runway fails Andy by trying to convince her that abuse is simply the price of ambition. But her friends and boyfriend fail her too, because the moment Andy begins to grow, succeed, and change, they treat that growth like a kind of moral corruption. One world tries to break her, the other resents her the moment she stops being the person they're comfortable with. And Andy's real achievement in the story isn't choosing between the two worlds. It's realizing she doesn't have to belong to either of them. Hi, welcome to Flawed and Framed, where we examine iconic characters and the stories that frame them. Part 1. Miranda, the devil the film warns us about. The title of the film is The Devil Wears Prada, and this movie is not particularly subtle about who that devil is supposed to be. Miranda Priestly isn't just a demanding boss. She's the architect of an entire culture that makes Runway a hostile workplace. The moment Miranda arrives at the office, everything shifts. Assistants scramble, desks are cleared, outfits are adjusted. No one has been yelled at, but everyone already knows what happens when Miranda is disappointed. Miranda reinforces this hierarchy immediately. She enters the office and casually drops her coat and bag onto Andy's desk without even looking at her. Andy isn't treated like a person. She's treated like infrastructure.
Good morning, Miranda.
Hey, Isaac.
When Andy struggles to understand the culture of fashion, Miranda doesn't mentor her, nor does she create an environment for one of Andy's colleagues to do so. Rather, she humiliates Andy. The cerulean sweater speech is often remembered as Miranda educating Andy about fashion's cultural influence, and that is true. But the point of this moment isn't education, it's domination. Miranda doesn't explain the industry privately. She holds a magnifying glass up to Andy's ignorance in front of her room.
This stuff, you go to your closet and you select that lumpy blue sweater because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue, it's actually cerulean. In 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns, and then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent who showed cerulean military jackets, and then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers to filter down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room.
Miranda also makes it very clear that Andy's presence itself is a mistake.
I said to myself, take a chance. Hire the smart fat girl. Anyway, you ended up disappointing me more than any of the other silly girls.
And when Andy tries to explain mistakes, Miranda shuts her down completely.
I really did everything I could think of.
That's all.
Miranda doesn't want explanations, she wants submission. Her management style depends on creating impossible expectations. The clearest example is when she demands that Andy obtain the unpublished manuscript of the next Harry Potter book.
I need the new Harry Potter book for the twins. Did you fall down and smack your little head on the pavement? We have all the published Harry Potter books. Twins want to know what happens next.
You want the unpublished manuscript?
Well, we know everyone in publishing. It shouldn't be a problem, should it? The book better be here no later than 3. And I would like my steak here in 15 minutes. I'll be back at 3. And if you don't have that Harry Potter book by then, don't even bother coming back.
It's an impossible task. Andy breaks down crying and assumes she will fail. But by now, Andy's extremely good at her job and she completes the task successfully, much to Miranda's surprise. Despite Andy succeeding at the task Miranda had set her up to fail, it does not get a thank you or any kind of acknowledgement. At first, Miranda does look impressed, but within 30 seconds she looks slightly irritated that she can't fire or reprimand Andy. Miranda also demands total control over Andy's time. At one point, Andy is having dinner with her father, one of the only people in the film who consistently supports her. He even gives her money to help with rent. And Miranda interrupts this dinner to demand Andy secure a private plane during a hurricane.
My boss. I'm sorry, Dad. I have to take this. Hello, Miranda?
My flight has been canceled. It's some absurd weather problem. I need to get home tonight.
Hi, I'm trying to get a flight tonight from Miami to New York. Yes, I know there's a hurricane. Miranda, hi. Look, I'm trying to get you a flight, but no one is flying out because of the weather.
Please, it's just, I don't know, drizzling. This is your responsibility. This is your job. Get me home.
When Andy can't do the impossible, Miranda treats it as a personal failure. And the system Miranda creates doesn't just harm assistants, it harms the people who dedicate their lives to her. Nigel spent 15 years working toward a creative director position. Miranda promises him this role, then quietly gives it to someone else in order to save her own job. Andy actually understands this system clearly.
She is not happy unless everyone around her is panic, nauseous, or suicidal. And the clackers just worship her. And they all act like they're curing cancer or something.
What actually changes over time isn't Miranda's behavior, but it's Andy's tolerance for it. And eventually she begins to excuse it.
Okay, she's tough, but if Miranda were a man, no one would notice anything about her except how great she is at her job.
I can't believe this. You're defending her?
Yeah.
Now, Andy isn't entirely wrong. For decades, abusive male bosses have been treated as normal, even expected, in professional environments. But women's empowerment was never supposed to mean replicating those standards. Abuse doesn't stop being abuse simply because men have been getting away with it for years. Cruelty doesn't become progressive just because a woman is the one delivering it. Miranda doesn't just challenge Andy. She fails her. She fails her by building a system where success depends on enduring humiliation, anticipating the impossible, and accepting the abuse as normal. This brings us to the next part of the runway abuse structure. Part 2. Emily and Nigel, surviving and enforcing the system. If Miranda builds the system, her employees become its enforcers. Emily represents what happens when Foley internalizes the culture of Runway. From the moment we meet her, Emily's entire identity revolves around her job. Emily immediately establishes hierarchy with Andy and gushes about her dreams of Paris Fashion Week, eclipsing both the competition and the importance of fashion very quickly.
Right, remember you and I have totally different jobs. I'm in charge of her schedule, her appointments and her expenses. And most importantly, I get to go with her to Paris for Fashion Week in the fall. I get to wear couture, I go to all the shows and all the parties. I meet all of the designers. It's divine.
She's quick to repeat the mantra that sustains the entire culture.
A million girls would kill for this job.
If the job is a privilege, exploitation becomes something to be grateful for. We see this mindset take a physical toll on Emily throughout the film. Emily shows up to work visibly sick because taking time off simply isn't an option.
How's the cold doing?
Like death warmed up. Oh, God, it's a benefit tonight. I've been looking forward to it for months.
At one point, Andy tells Emily.
You look so thin.
Emily proudly exclaims.
Do I? What's for Paris? Well, I'm on this new diet. Well, I don't eat anything. And when I feel like I'm about to faint, I eat a cube of cheese.
To convince herself the physical tolls are ultimately worth it, she has to brainwash herself.
I love my job. I love my job. I love my job.
This feels less like enthusiasm and more like self-conditioning. Emily spends the entire year preparing for Fashion Week in Paris, starving herself, showing up to work sick, dealing with the stress of Runway, and, while rushing to complete Miranda's errands, she's hit by a car. Emily loses the opportunity she sacrificed everything for, and the system immediately replaces her, and not with anyone, but with Andy, her ultimate competitor, who has been closing in on her ranks. Emily doesn't just compete with Andy, though. She fails her. She fails her by enforcing a system that harms them both, and treating that harm as something to aspire to, even though we, as the audience, can see the harm the system does to Emily. Nigel begins this film just as unsympathetic. When Andy is inconsolable after Miranda harshly scolds her, Nigel is unsympathetic.
She hates me, Nigel.
And that's my problem because... Oh, wait, no, it's not my problem.
I don't...
Do you want me to say poor you? Miranda's picking on you, poor Andy. Wake up.
Nigel is a catalyst for her growth, though, encouraging her to take her job more seriously and become invested in her learning.
Andy, be serious. You are not trying. You have no idea how many legends have walked these halls. Because this place, where so many people would die to work, you only deign to work.
This is wonderful advice that takes Andy far. Andy was incredibly unprepared for her fashion job, making her an obvious target for office gossip and Miranda's abuse.
Who's Miranda? Hello, Mrs. Priestley's office. That's what I meant, Miranda Priestley's office. Okay, can you please spell Gabbana?
I have no idea why Miranda hired her.
Me neither.
By stepping up, she takes that target off her back. Nigel becomes Andy's closest ally. He helps her transform so she can survive Runway.
I don't know what you expect me to do.
There's nothing in this whole closet that'll fit a size 6, I can guarantee you.
And choose... Jimmy Choo?
They're seen on a lunch break together. Still, Nigel reinforces the same ideology. He praises Andy for her growth at her job, which is wonderful, but he also makes sure to toast to her losing weight.
Who put that together for you?
Oh, it's just something I threw on.
Really, I think that my work here is done. We're going to celebrate. I'm going to get some champagne.
Okay.
You bet your size 6 ass.
4.
Really?
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
And when Andy worries about her personal life falling apart, Nigel tells her,
No, join a club. That's what happens when you start doing well at work, darling. Let me know when your whole life goes up in smoke. When is this time for a promotion?
in his world, sacrificing relationships isn't a warning sign. It's proof your career is succeeding. And Nigel believes that loyalty will be eventually rewarded, until Miranda betrays him in Paris. The system he defended for 15 years discards him immediately, but due to his conditioning, he has to hold out hope that he'll be rewarded someday.
And it's my great happiness today to announce to you all that that person, Jacqueline Follet.
When the time is right, she'll pay me back.
You sure about that?
No, but I hope for the best. I have to.
Nigel doesn't just mentor Andy. He fails her too. He fails her by teaching her that success requires losing everything, and by trusting a system that was ultimately going to betray him. Speaking of systems that keep you stuck, Part 3, The Friends. Support that only exists if Andy stays the same. Outside Runway, Andy's friends appear more grounded, but their support is conditional. Andy's allowed to struggle, but she's not allowed to change, even if that alleviates her struggles. Early in the film, when Andy complains about her job, one of her friends says,
Look, seriously, Miranda Priestly is a huge deal. I bet a million girls would kill for that job.
Andy responds,
Yeah, great. The thing is, I'm not one of them.
The friends look impressed. Her boyfriend Nate smiles proudly, because Andy still fits the version of her they recognize. But when Andy begins succeeding at her job, their attitudes shift. They're happy to enjoy the perks of Runway, but find her job frivolous. And when Andy says,
Yeah, but the thing is, it turns out that there is more to Runway than just fancy purses. Here's an essay by Jay McInerney, a piece by Joan Didion, even an interview with Christiane Amanpour.
Look what her friends do. They roll their eyes and scoff. Andy's passion is silly in their eyes. Then when Miranda calls, they play hot potato with her work call for fun.
Nate.
I got it. It's, yep, the dragon lady.
Miranda.
Let me talk to her.
No, okay, I need that.
Until I get her on.
Andy is clearly stressing, and they don't notice and continue to smirk and giggle. When Andy has fully transformed into someone stylish and confident, their reaction isn't curiosity, it's mockery and suspicion. Lily, in particular, begins icing Andy out, treating her as corrupt.
The Andy I know is madly in love with Nate. He's always 5 minutes early, but this person, this glamazon who skulks around in corners with some random hot fashion guy, I don't get her.
Andy's growth becomes something alien to them. The problem isn't the job, though that too was seen as silly. Her friends don't just tease her, they fail her. They fail her by supporting her only when she's struggling and rejecting her the moment she becomes someone they don't recognize. Her friends aren't the only ones who have a problem with her growth, though, which brings us to Part 4, Nate, when concern turns into resentment. Andy's boyfriend Nate initially appears supportive. He listens to Andy complain about Miranda. He agrees the job sounds miserable.
I just have to stick it out for a year. 1 year. And then I can do what I came to New York to do. But I can't let Miranda get to me. I won't.
Easy there, Tiger.
He looks thrilled when Andy puts down fashion.
The amount of time and energy that these people spend on these insignificant, minute details, and for what?
I bet 1 million girls would kill for that job.
Yeah, great. The thing is, I'm not one of them.
His support depends on Andy continuing to hate the job and not take fashion seriously. Because when Andy begins to thrive at Runway and become interested in the fashion world, Nate's attitude changes.
Looks like someone's been drinking the Kool-Aid.
Small moments reveal it all. When Andy's phone rings with a work call, Nate tosses it around with the friends.
Nate.
I got it. It's, yep, the dragon lady.
Miranda. Let me talk to her.
It's a disrespectful act showing how little he takes her career and the industry she's in seriously.
Why do women need so many bags? You have one, you put all your junk in it, and that's it, you're done.
The tension escalates after Nate's birthday dinner. Andy rushes across the city to be there, missing an incredible networking opportunity to do so.
Oh, I gotta go.
My editor for New York Magazine is inside, and I could introduce you to. You sent over your stuff for me to look at. I think you have a talent, Andy. He should meet you.
When she arrives back at her apartment, Nate barely acknowledges her.
Can we at least talk about this?
You look really pretty.
Later, he tells Andy he prefers her old clothes.
I like the old clothes.
What he really means is that he prefers the old version of Andy who was lost, confused, and hated the fashion world. When Andy replaces Emily for Paris, Nate reminds her that the trip meant everything to Emily.
I thought Paris was a big deal for Emily.
And he is right that Andy should acknowledge that. He also pushes Andy to admit she enjoys the fashion world now. Here, he is right. Andy does like it, and that is totally okay. But instead of treating that change as growth, Nate frames it as a loss of integrity.
You hate Runway and Miranda, and you think fashion is stupid.
No, I wouldn't care if you were out there pole dancing all night, as long as you did it with a little integrity. You used to say this was just a job. You used to make fun of the Runway girls. What happened? Now you've become one of them. Just own up to it. And then we can stop pretending like we have anything in common anymore.
You don't mean that.
No, I do.
Andy's career only becomes acceptable to Nate if it fits his moral expectations, and she has to constantly justify her success and ambitions.
Andy, what the hell is wrong with you?
I didn't have a choice, okay? Miranda asked me, and I couldn't say no.
I know, that's your answer.
You're mad because I work late all the time, and because I missed your birthday party, and I'm sorry.
Come on.
At the end of the film, Andy tells Nate,
I wanted to say that you were right about everything.
No, he wasn't. Nate was right about one thing. Runway is abusive. Miranda is an abusive boss. But being right about abuse doesn't give someone the right to control how another person escapes it. While Andy is grappling with her work trauma and career growth, Nate reduces it down to superficial reasonings, completely ignoring all of the skills and connections Andy picked up during her time at Runway.
For what?
For shoes. And shirts. And jackets and belts.
By the end of the film, it's implied that they will get back together, which I think is a huge mistake.
I flew up to Boston while you were gone. Interviewed at the Oak Room. And you're looking at their new sous chef. I'm moving up there in a couple weeks. We might be able to figure something out.
You think?
Yeah. What about you? What are you going to do now?
I have a job interview today.
Andy has absolutely outgrown Nate, and that's okay. It's alluded to the fact that she'll be pursuing a career in journalism, another busy, competitive field where she will have to get to a worksite at the drop of a hat. What do we think is going to happen then? Nate will once again grow resentful of Andy being unavailable because she's working, especially if she begins to shine in her field. But back to what I was saying previously. Nate doesn't just worry about Andy. He fails her. He fails her by turning her growth into something suspect, something she has to defend instead of something he supports. Which brings us to Andy's radical decision. Part 5. Andy's Exit. By the time Andy reaches Paris, she understands the pattern. Miranda controls through fear. Emily survives through competition. Nigel survives through loyalty. Her friends resist her growth. Nate resents it. Every group tries to define who she's allowed to become, and in different ways, they all fail her. Andy doesn't walk away because one side is right. She walks away because neither is. Because staying would mean becoming someone shaped by people who never actually supported her, only the version of her they were comfortable with. In conclusion, framing The Devil Wears Prada as Friends and Nate versus Runway misses the point. Because the real conflict in Andy's story isn't where she belongs, it's whether she's allowed to grow without being punished for it. Runway tries to convince her that abuse is the price of ambition. Her friends and Nate try to convince her that her growth is the problem. One demands she shrink her boundaries. The other demands she shrink her potential. And in different ways, they all fail her. So Andy doesn't walk away because one side is right. She walks away because neither is. Because staying would mean accepting a version of herself shaped by people who never actually supported her, only the version of her they were comfortable with. And in a story where every path asks her to become smaller in some way, walking away isn't just independence. It's the only response left when everyone in her orbit has already failed her. What do you think? Do you think the people at Runway just prepared Andy for the real world and that her friends and her boyfriend were the real villains? Or do you think that Miranda and Runway were the real villains and that her friends were right to call out her changes? Or do you think she was just failed by everyone in her orbit? If you liked this video and you want to hear more about women who have been underappreciated by everyone in their orbit, please go check out my Miranda Hobbs video, which is linked somewhere here on the screen. If you made it this far, leave a high-heeled emoji in the comments. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with another analysis soon. Bye-bye.